Reanimator, From Beyond, and now Suitable Flesh. These are a few movies based off of works by H.P. Lovecraft. What's up, YouTube? Zero here, and today I have a quick horror movie review of the movie Suitable Flesh. Yes, that's right, this movie is based off of works by H.P. Lovecraft, of course, no stranger to the horror community. In this video, I'll go over a brief synopsis of Suitable Flesh. I'll talk briefly about the actors and where you may have seen them. Then I'll get into what I liked and what you may like, what I didn't like, what you may not like. And then at the end of the video, I'll say if you should check out this movie and my rating out of 10. Without further ado, let's get into a brief synopsis. A psychiatrist becomes obsessed with one of her young patients, who she later discovers is linked to an ancient curse. So you can kind of put one and one together. The movie's called Suitable Flesh, and a psychiatrist becomes obsessed with her young patient who's linked to a curse. I won't tell you any more than that, but the premise is very intriguing. I actually was engrossed in this movie from the onset. Let's talk about the actors, at least the main ones, and you've probably seen them before. The first is Heather Graham, who is no stranger to movies. She has been around a while. The one that I really know her from is The Hangover. Of course, one of my favorite comedies of all time, but she has been in a lot of other movies. She is the main actress who plays Dr. Elizabeth Darby. The next actor, who has been around a little bit now, is Judah Lewis, who plays Asa in this movie, and he was recently in The Christmas Chronicles, both 1 and 2. And you also have Barbara Crampton, who is no stranger to horrors. She was actually in the 2 H.P. Lovecraft-based movies that I mentioned previously in From Beyond and The Reanimator. So she has been around a while as well. Also plays another doctor. Now those are the 3 main actors in this movie. And let's talk about what you may like. While being on the subject of acting, all of the actors in this movie do a phenomenal job. Now, I'm not going to say exactly what's happening in the movie because I'd like you to find out for yourself, but each of the actors have to play a different persona in this movie, and they do a phenomenal job of flipping back and forth. As you see the movie progress, each of the actors has to change character several times, and they all do a phenomenal job of doing that. It's like flipping a switch for them, and all of them do a great job. So for that is on, of course, the positive side. On top of that, the story progresses very well. You can really get engrossed from the story right from the onset. You see the curse and how it progresses, and you see the different characters involved, and you really get a sense of, wow, what's going to happen next? You see this happening, and then this happening. You're like, I really do want to continue this storyline. You're really just involved, and you get really engrossed in this storyline. I really love the story. I wouldn't say it's the most unique storyline. Of course, we've seen curses before in horror movies. The one that comes to mind is It Follows, where teens pass on a curse via sex. So that's not necessarily a curse in itself, is not necessarily the most unique, and that may be something that you dislike, is that maybe this isn't the most unique storyline, but it is a decent storyline in which the actors and how the story progresses really gets you engrossed. Of course, the story is going to revolve around this psychiatrist, Dr. Elizabeth, her patient, and the demon and curse itself. So that is absolutely fantastic. Now, some things that you may or may not like, I'm going to put this kind of in the middle, is that at times the movie feels like an old detective movie. Like when you see the client walking into the detective's little office that you would see maybe back in like the 1970s or so. Sometimes it feels like that. Now, is that a bad thing or a good thing? That's up to you to decide. I thought it was very enjoyable and really suited the movie well, but you may or may not like that. There are also times when maybe the characters aren't as relatable. Sometimes you can get a feel for the characters, but I'm not necessarily sure they're as relatable as I have related to other characters in the past. Sometimes it's a little bit harder, at least in this movie, to put myself in the character's shoes. So from that standpoint, that may be something else that's a little bit more on the negative side. Not necessarily saying you always have to relate to characters, but some of their actions you kind of think in the back of your head, what the fuck are you doing? Kind of like that, where you see other horror movies where you're like, I just don't understand the action. So granted, the story progresses well, but sometimes the characters' actions aren't necessarily smart. But that's something you may or may not like. Ultimately, this was a very good movie. The story progressed well. It engrossed me from the get-go. Now, something that you may or may not like, it's not going to be really a slasher. There's not going to be a lot of blood and guts. And it's not like a jump scare horror. It's more of a psychological horror. You're not going to get a lot of jump scares, and you're not going to get a lot of slashing. So if that's the type of horror movie you're looking for, it's not going to be this. This is more of a on the thriller end of horror. So that's the last thing. I didn't mind it. I thought it was great, but that's just something you may or may not like. But ultimately, this is a fantastic movie. Fantastic acting, a great storyline, and really keeps you engrossed. Well, on the other side, it's more of a thriller horror, not necessarily a blood and guts or a jump scare horror, which isn't a bad thing. And the characters are a little bit harder to connect to. But this is a great movie. I recommend checking it out, and I give it a 7 out of 10 stars. But let me know in the comment section if you've seen it and what you think. I hope you enjoyed this video, and until next time, stay spooky. Peace.